Hi folks, well, another day in lockdown in Queensland, Australia. Another day apart from people. Another day of the COVID reality. This is a nice place. Queensland, Australia, folks. So I can get this camera to do the right thing. I thought you'd enjoy being out here. It's a nice area. We've got a few vehicles parked around, but it's still a nice area. Beautiful spot. Can pan this camera around a little bit. Yeah, beautiful place to be, folks. Beautiful place to be. But the legislation continues. Here I am standing in the middle of the creek, folks. The legislation continues. A lot of people are picking up on it though. I noticed a report on Sky News yesterday or the day before, where they were actually questioning the figures, whether the government has perhaps overreacted to this alleged pandemic.
The penny is starting to drop. The danger of this virus, wildly exaggerated. But our reaction to this virus has been devastating, worse than you could have predicted. Restrictions so far that have put more than 100,000 people out of work, with many more to come. So that around the country now, we have breadwinners who've just lost their jobs, losing their savings, they've been humiliated, and they're not even allowed to go out. Many of those homes will now be pressure cookers, stewing in absolutely dangerous frustration. In fact, that's why the Victorian government has just banned gun sales completely.
So as you can see, a few people are starting to question it. And there's a lot of reports coming out as well. There was an interesting report that was put out by a guy in Mullumbimby that I mirrored on my channel. It was published by Liability Mate channel, and I mirrored it on mine, and last time I checked it, it had something like 170,000 views in the first day, 175,000 views I think. At the last time I looked, it's probably a lot more than that now. And apologies to Thomas Barnett, the man who recorded the original video, which I believe has been deleted now. Apologies if he's received undue attention due to me posting his video. But I thought it was very relevant, and I thought it was important that the information gets shared. So yeah, I shared it. There's been a lot of reports coming in. There was reports from people going and looking at hospitals. You can see a lot of the hospitals are empty. There was another report that was done by a British woman who found there were agents of the state in her building who were apparently putting up notices that a homeless man who'd been housed there was dead. And she said, no, he's not dead. We just saw him, he's not dead. Why are you saying he's dead? And the reason, of course, folks, was because if they can say the man's dead, then they can say that all the people in the building may possibly have coronavirus and may need quarantining. So you can see the way they're going to play this, folks. They're just doing everything they can to push the concept that there is this huge pandemic happening. And there's just no evidence to support it. Like I said, a lot of the people who've been going and looking at the hospitals are finding that the hospitals are empty. And nothing's the way we're being told that it is the problem. You know, we're being deceived on so many levels with this, folks, we really are. And the plans that they've got are just not good plans, they're really not. You know, they have some pretty nefarious ideas for us, folks, they really do. And that's a problem. Now, there's actually a really good report that was put out by a woman called Celeste Solon or Solun. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name. I'm going to put a link below so you can go and check it out. And it's a very good report. It's a little bit Christian-y for a lot of people. Some people may be turned off by the fact that within 45 seconds she's talking about prophecy. But if you get through the Christian part at the start, there's some very, very good information about a site called the World Economic Forum. And when you look at what they've got written on this website, on the World Economic Forum, what you find is the COVID response plan is basically an outline of world government. You know, the global governments. I mean, it's here, folks. Everything we've been talking about, everything we've been warning about, it's now here. You know, the New World Order has arrived. It's not coming anymore. It's now here, fully fledged. And, you know, it's going to be up to us what we do with this opportunity that's being presented to us. Because, you know, in many ways, although it's a huge problem, it's still an opportunity. And that's, you know, we need to look at things that way, folks. There's opportunity in all crisis. I mean, isn't that what they say? Never let a good crisis go to waste. I think it's about time we adopted that attitude as well. We in the resistance adopted that attitude and started to realise that we can use these things as opportunities for ourselves as well. Really is a beautiful country around here, folks. But anyway, I really do recommend that you go and look at that video by Celeste Solun. She does give a really good breakdown of what's going on with the World Economic Forum. And when you look at it, I mean, it's got maps on there that go 200 layers deep, folks, which show you their plans and outline their plans for you. And it's pretty drastic stuff that they have in mind. There's also a really good report by a man who says he is an ex-CEO of Vodafone. And he gives a very good report as well about what's going on with 5G, what's going on with the electromagnetic radiation, and how a lot of the coronavirus symptoms would very much appear to be generated by electromagnetic radiation. There was another report that I put a link to, I think, on my last video that I showed you, or the one before, of a doctor called Dr. Thomas Cowan, who also corroborates that claim. A very, very good report. There's reports by Dr. Fauci as well, or Fauci, F-A-U-C-I. Very good reports about what's happening with this virus. There's a lot of good information coming out, folks, and it's important that people look at it. It really is. But like I said on the last report that I did, you know, one thing that may be positive about all of this, you know, with people spending all their time at home, maybe they'll realise how meaningless their jobs were. Maybe they'll realise that, you know, their addictions were, you know, just distracting them from their lives. Maybe a lot of people will use this as time to reflect, you know, and hopefully they won't move into the fear that the government wants to move them into, and hopefully they'll stand up to this concept of mandatory vaccinations that the government wants to push, because you just know that that's what they want to push, you know. So it's important that we look at all of this stuff, folks. It really is. Check this place out again. Bit of traffic going past out here in the rainforest, folks. Yeah, but mandatory vaccinations is where they want to push it. But if we can get enough people to wake up to what's happening, then perhaps they won't be able to push these mandatory vaccinations. Perhaps they won't get away with it, folks. That's my great hope, that they just don't get away with it. But it's going to be whether we choose to stand up, whether people take this opportunity and choose to stand up. As I said here in Australia, as I said previously, you know, we've got a pretty unique opportunity here in Australia, because we have tribal lands here in Australia, and there's a lot of work being done to reclaim the tribal lands. And if the people of Australia were to treaty with the tribes, you find that you can step outside the jurisdiction of the Crown. And that's a fact, folks. It can be done. In fact, there's a community that is starting, or has started, in northern New South Wales in Australia here, which is a sovereign community under Aboriginal law. And people can actually buy into it. You know, if you'd like to know more about that, do contact me and I'll put you on to the people that are doing this. There's a property in northern New South Wales. It's about 6,000 acres, and you can actually buy it. I mean, if you're approved as someone who they want to actually have as part of the community, you can actually buy into this community, get yourself like a quarter-acre block for something like, I don't know, 200 grand, 250 grand, something like that. I mean, if you're someone out there who's got your super dwindling away and you want to put it into something, you could put it into a block on tribal land that you will be the permanent leaseholder of and be under tribal law. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. I mean, there's a whole movement to restore the sovereignty of Australia. I mean, the Australian government's invalid, and the people of this country could actually claim this country back if they got a little bit of a handle on what's going on. So I'm actually going to have someone on the show, or someone on for an interview soon, to talk about this, because I think it's important. So that's something else. I mean, I'm a bit vague this morning, folks, but I will bring you more information about this. But it's a good opportunity for people who are in Australia. If you want to become part of a sovereign tribal community, you have an opportunity to do it with what's going on in northern New South Wales. So yeah, something to think about, folks. Definitely something to think about. An interesting thing in the video that I posted from Liability Mate with Thomas Barnett talking about the fact that viruses cannot be transmitted. Viruses are actually formed in your stomach. Viruses are actually, you know, created on a cellular level inside your body. They're not something that's contagious. They're a result of your body actually eliminating toxins. There was a thing in the start of that video which showed drones flying over people in Western Australia, reminding people to please adhere to the 1.5 metre apart rule, which I thought was kind of interesting, folks. How do you feel about having drones flying over the place? Drones flying over your house telling you to be sure to stay 1.5 metres apart.
Announcement from the WA Police Force. We would like to remind everyone in the surrounding area to ensure they are social distancing. Social distancing is critical to help limit the risk of Covid-19 spreading around the community. Please ensure you are 1.5 metres away from others. Thank you. Your actions are saving lives.
Pretty drastic stuff, folks, you know, and don't think that this is going to go away. You know, the world is not going to go back to the way it was. They don't have that plan at all. All this stimulus stuff that they're rolling out, saying they're there to help the small businesses, it's just to crash the financial system. That's all the stimulus packages are going to do, is crash the financial system and ensure that the dollar never recovers. You know, that's what they're going to do with this, folks. I mean, the plan is to create mass unemployment. They don't care, you know. The stimulus package, it's a facade, it's a joke. I mean, and they're saying, well, they first said that the lockdown was going to last till April 18th, and then they said now it's going to last till April 28th. The government in Australia is actually off until August, so I'll tell you right now that the lockdown is going to last at least 6 months. There's talk that it's going to last 18 months. I would suggest the lockdown is going to last until they have developed a vaccine, and then they're going to say people who want to come out of lockdown must be vaccinated. That's the way they'll probably play it, folks. You know, the vaccine is all important in their plans, and the vaccine is a lot of what's going to bring on this virus. You know, the reason there hasn't been so many people is because 5G hasn't been switched on in our countries yet, in so many countries. You'll find 5G was switched on in Wuhan, it was switched on in Italy, switched on in all the places where they've had major outbreaks. And it takes about 6 months for it to work, apparently. If you go and look at some of the reports of the doctors that I mentioned before, again, I'll put all the links below. It takes about 6 months for these electromagnetic effects to start manifesting in people. And so that's why they're expecting a huge run on the hospitals. They're expecting a huge outbreak. Even Trump said he's expecting, I think, 240,000 or 250,000 cases in the United States. And yet, you know, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that yet. And that's why they're rushing around rolling out all this 5G stuff while people are locked away, I would suggest. Anyway. But, yeah, I mean, look at the state of the country here in Australia. Everybody locked down, everybody under house arrest. We've got fines on the border here, $66,000 fine if you go through the border without a permit, you know, up to $66,000. It's just ridiculous, folks. And because we've had, 19 people die in Australia, and who's actually confirming that these are even coronavirus deaths? I mean, you know, this government is so stupid, they wouldn't know anything. So how are they even getting these numbers? Where are they pulling these numbers from? You know, the government here is so incredibly stupid, folks. They are. I mean, that's how they've managed to give power away to the sovereign nations and didn't even realise they were doing it. But I tell you, folks, they have given power away to the sovereign nations. There's been steps that have been taken which have pretty well checkmated the entire crown system in this country if people would just become aware of it and they would get out and treaty with the tribes. The problem is, even saying this, a lot of people say, oh, you're saying give the country back to the Aboriginals. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. And for a start, there is no such thing as an Aboriginal. I mean, what is that? A non-original? There are no Aboriginals in this country. There are tribal people in this country, and their tribal law still stands in this country, even under the Crown's legislation. In fact, through steps the government has taken in this country since 1973 up to the present day, they've basically given all power away. They've devoided themselves through their own actions and through their own stupidity, through actions that have been taken by the Australian sovereign people, or the original sovereign people of this country. I won't even use the word Australia because, you know, this is just a country that they call Australia, but, you know, that's just their name for it. So yeah, you know, hopefully something positive will come out of this. I really hope something positive does come out of this. I really hope people take this time for reflection. I really hope they take this time to get back in touch with themselves, you know, because it is a great opportunity to do that. It's a huge opportunity to do that. This is the Australian bush, folks. My backyard. It's a nice space, you know. A lot of people think Australia is just deserts and, you know, all this miserable stuff, and everything wants to kill you, and it's all these dangerous snakes and spiders and all this rubbish that people talk about. It's all rubbish, folks. It's actually a really, really beautiful country. Beautiful, peaceful forests. Look at this. They're beautiful. I love this place. Strangely quiet here today, though. I'm not hearing a lot of birds. A few insects, but not a great deal. Not as many as I would expect to hear. I guess it's just that time of the day. Well, there's one. Made a liar out of me. You've got to appreciate that little chirp up there. But anyway, folks, I suppose I'll leave it there. I don't really know if I have much to say, but do check out that video of Celeste Solum. Check out the video of Solum or Solun. Check out the video of the Vodafone operator. There's also a really good video by David Icke. And all you people out there, oh, David Icke's controlled opposition, right? Well, whatever, folks. Put it all down, put all that stuff down, put your programming down, and listen to what the man has to say. He put out a video called something like Coronavirus, Fiddling the Numbers. I put a link on my last video, and I'll put a link below on this one. And he breaks it all down, how the numbers are all fudged, how the numbers simply don't add up. So whatever you think of David Icke, I defy anyone to find a better video to put all the numbers in place and break it all down the way he's done in that video. And I highly recommend that you watch it, and I recommend that you share it. I'll put a link to the Sky News video as well, where the guy's really questioning this, and that's good to see because it's almost mainstream Sky News, so you know it's pretty well on the cusp of being mainstream. And even these people are saying, well, hang on, this just doesn't add up. You know, we've got 19 people dead, and we've got the country shut down. We've got hundreds of thousands of people put out of work, and it's never going to go back to the way it was because of this so-called pandemic, which has killed so far 19 people since it first came into Australia and since it was first discovered, which was about 3 months ago. So what is this great pandemic? You know, there is no pandemic. It's about covering up their financial mismanagement. And if you go and look at the World Economic Forum website, you see that what it's about is global governance. That's what it's about. This is the plan. And all the governments will come in line with it because it's all about coronavirus, and it's all about vaccines, and it's all about complete control. It's all about a cashless society. Even Trump's pushing this. Everybody's pushing it, folks. People who thought Trump was your friend, he's not your friend. You know, no politician is your friend, folks. You know, but hopefully this time that people are spending home, reflecting, perhaps they will have time for meditation. Perhaps they'll have time to reconnect with themselves and realize that most of what they were doing in their life was meaningless anyway. Now, the one thing that you own in this world, the one thing you own in life is your time. That's about all you own. You know, the moments that you have, the things that you do, you know, all your stuff, that gets left behind when you leave, but it's your experiences, your time. And that's something this system has done, is it has taken all our time from us. We spend all our time obeying the system and doing the things that the system says we should do. And that's not really what life is about, folks. So perhaps people will take this time to reflect on the loss of the time that they've had in their lives. And perhaps they'll use this time as a way of reconnecting with that. A few people out here this morning. It's good to see people coming out and enjoying the bush. Perhaps people will reflect on that and reflect on how much of their time has been taken from them by this system. And now they have all the time in the world to reflect on that. So many people, you know, so many people have lost their jobs. So many people are in fear over this. There's nothing to fear about the impending crash of this slavery system, folks. The only thing to be concerned about is what their remedy may be to the collapse. Because we can find our own remedy if we can reconnect with our own hearts and reconnect with the people around us. And I think this is a huge opportunity for us to do that. But we've got to keep calling this out for what it is, folks. I mean, this whole thing is a scam. There is no world pandemic. Nothing that is worth shutting the world down to the extent that they've done anyway. This is completely media driven. You won't find any people in the hospitals until they start pushing out the vaccines and until they start installing 5G and switching it on everywhere. Once they've switched that on, you'll see people start developing symptoms. And like I said, go and look at the work of the Vodafone CEO Whistleblower and look at the work of Dr. Thomas Cowan. There's a lot of people that are talking about the way electromagnetism actually affects our biology. It's very important that people get a handle on what's really happening here. But again, you know, it's important that people see it as an opportunity as well. You know, we can get rid of these dickheads, we really can. All of these freaking idiots in Canberra, all these politicians. You know, the game's up, the jig's exposed with this. I mean, they played their hand to such a ridiculous degree, and they thought that we were all going to go along with it. They thought everyone was going to buy into the fact that it was a virus. Everyone's going to think that it was this engineered bioweapon that's been taken out around the world. It's just coronavirus, folks. It's just a normal, everyday seasonal flu. You know, and you can't catch viruses anyway because that's not the nature of viruses. You can catch bacteria, you can catch germs, you can catch all sorts of stuff, but you can't catch viruses. Viruses are created in your own body. They don't even transfer between organs, let alone between people. So, you know, we're being scammed, folks. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there today. Like I said, I don't really know if I've got much to say. It's just, you know, I wanted to alert you to these videos. I wanted to alert you to the video about the World Economic Forum. And like I said, whatever you think of Celeste with her Christianism, you know, I mean, I'm personally, you know, I thought it was a little bit strange of her to say you shouldn't trust any information that doesn't come from Christian sources because, you know, I'm not a Christian. I love what Jesus said and I love what Jesus did, and I tend to follow his path, but I don't do the religion, and he didn't do religion either. You know, and frankly, I've never met a Christian that follows the path of Jesus. And as far as the Bible goes, I mean, I don't know. I really like what Jesus did, and I like what he said, but you know, I find it difficult to believe any book written by Hebrews that was compiled by a king. I mean, a king. What is a king? You know, I mean, frankly, anybody who thinks that they should be king, you know, and have the right to rule by blood is a demented fool with severe personality problems anyway. So why would I want to put trust in the king? Why would I want to put trust in any book? You know, Jesus was someone who simply told the truth. He was an activist. And if he wasn't an activist, you never would have heard about him. And I don't see too many Christians who are actually activists and getting out there and walking the path that he walked. You know, and he walked it for a long time, that path. He walked it for years, and he spoke out against the system for years. They let him get away with it. He never got in trouble for it until he went into the temples and overturned the tables of the money changers, and then he was dead within a week. Funny that, huh? Murdered by the police. A lot of people will say, oh no, he was crucified by Pilate. No, he wasn't, folks. Go and read the trial in the Bible. Jesus wouldn't give him his name. When he said, are you the Son of God? Jesus said, well, is that what you're saying? You know, he wouldn't play the game. He wouldn't play the name game with them. He wouldn't give them jurisdictions, which is why Pilate washed his hands and walked away from the whole case and said, I leave you to your own fate. And what happened to Jesus is he was murdered by the police at the urging of an angry mob, an angry Jewish mob, and the police who just didn't want to back down. They wanted to appease the mob. That's what happened to Christ, mate. He was murdered by the cops. So, you know, I think people should take that into account. So, you know, I don't think it's important that you're a Christian or you're important that you belong to any religion. I think it's important that you have that Holy Spirit in your heart. That is what is important. That's what he did, and he was an activist because of that. And if we all chose to walk that path right now, perhaps we could change things ourselves. You wouldn't need the system to do it. You know, we should all go outside and enjoy the sun. You know, go outside and enjoy nature. Go outside and enjoy each other. You know, don't be scared of touching each other. Don't be scared of handling cash. I mean, they already have determined that cash won't transmit the coronavirus. This is already, some government put that out and said, no, it's all good. I don't know who it was. Some government in Europe said that. But anyway, you know, we're being scammed, folks. We're being scammed. And, you know, the division in religion, I don't think is going to help anything. So you shouldn't be promoting that sort of concept that you should only believe Christian sources, or you should only believe Muslim sources, or you should only believe Jewish sources, or whatever. I think it's time for everybody to put all that stuff down, put all their programming down, put all their judgment of others down, look within their hearts and realize that this is a huge opportunity for the humankind to unite, because finally we are all facing a common threat. And it isn't the coronavirus, it's the governments that are working together to perpetrate this hoax upon us and lock us into a police state. And I think it's pretty obvious for everyone to see now. And as I said on the last report that I gave you folks, the most effective thing you can do to combat this is to throw away your smartphone, because your smartphone is how they're tracking everybody. They can't do any of this, they can't implement this control grid if people do not buy smart technology. So throw it away, folks. You don't need it. It's not your friend. You know, smart. Go and look up the roots, the etymology of the word smart. That's an education. It doesn't mean intelligence. Go and look it up. I won't even tell you what it means. Just go and look it up. Smart etymology. Check it out. Have a nice day, folks. In Icke.